All right, today we're going to break down a really powerful story, a parable that some have called the clearest, most moving illustration of the Christian gospel you'll ever hear. The source material presents it as this unforgettable way to grasp a really complex idea. So let's just dive right in. Right out of the gate, the source makes this huge claim, calling this the best illustration of the gospel they've ever heard. Now, that's setting the bar pretty high, right? So let's see what makes this particular story so powerful. It all starts with an ancient king. So here's what's so fascinating about this king. He's got these two qualities that seem to be in a total head-on collision. On one hand, he was known to be perfectly loving. I mean, the most loving king imaginable. But on the other hand, he was perfectly just. Every single law was absolute, no exceptions. And this right here, this is the central tension of the entire story. So let's see how this whole thing plays out. It all kicks off with a crime, and the king's absolute, unwavering response. His perfect justice is about to get a serious test. The problem itself was pretty straightforward. Somebody was stealing from the royal treasury. Now, for a king who is perfectly just, you can't just let that slide. Something had to be done. A law had to be made. The king's first move was to issue a decree. Whoever the thief is, when they're caught, they get 10 lashes in front of everybody. Simple enough. But here's the thing. The stealing didn't stop. It continued. So the king, being perfectly just, had to escalate. He issued a final decree. The new penalty would be 40 lashes. And that punishment was so severe, it was basically a death sentence. And we gotta be super clear about what this number really means. In this story, 40 lashes wasn't just, a really bad punishment. It was a death sentence. It was not survivable. Period. So the king has now staked his entire reputation for perfect justice on a sentence of death for this crime. And this is where this story takes this incredibly personal turn. What was an abstract problem of law and order is about to become an impossible, absolutely heartbreaking dilemma for the king himself. So after a few more weeks, they finally catch the thief, and it's the king's own daughter. All of a sudden, this isn't about some random criminal. It's about his child. His perfect justice is now demanding the death of the very person he perfectly loves. You can just imagine this question spreading like wildfire through the kingdom. It's the ultimate paradox. I mean, think about it. If he pardons her, sure, he's a loving dad, but he's not a just king. His word, his law means nothing. But if he punishes her, okay, he's a just king. But what kind of perfectly loving father executes his own daughter? He is completely and totally trapped. Okay, let's go to the day of the sentencing. The daughter is brought out, tied to the executioner's table right in the middle of the town square. The crowd is watching. The law is crystal clear, and justice has to be served. The whole kingdom is holding its breath. Just as the executioner raises his whip for that first lash, the king does something no one saw coming. He stands up from his throne. The entire square just goes dead silent, all eyes on him. He yells just one single word that echoes across the square. Stop! Everybody freezes. Is he going to back down? Is he going to throw out his own law? The tension is just... wow. He walks silently from his throne over to the executioner's table, but he doesn't untie his daughter. No. Instead, he bends over and wraps his own body around hers, shielding her completely. Then he rips the shirt right off his own back. And he looks at this stunned executioner and gives this unbelievable command, now hit her. The executioner is confused. He says he can't possibly hit her without hitting the king. And the king just says it again, now hit her. And so the full sentence was carried out. All 40 lashes, the death sentence, fell on the back of the king. Justice was perfectly satisfied. The penalty got paid in full. And love was perfectly demonstrated. The father saved his child. The king died. And because he died, the girl went free. Now, that story is incredibly powerful all on its own, but the source uses it to explain a really central idea in the gospel. So let's look at the direct parallels and really unpack the meaning behind one of the most famous phrases ever spoken. You see, the power here is in the direct allegory. The king, he represents God the Father, who is both perfectly loving and perfectly just. The daughter, well, that's humanity, and her crime represents sin. The punishment, death, is what justice demands. So the king's sacrifice, taking that punishment on himself, That's the illustration for Jesus on the cross. And the source connects this incredible act of sacrifice directly to Jesus' final words from the cross: "It is finished." The story of the king helps us feel the profound weight of that statement. It's not a cry of defeat at all. And this is the absolute crucial distinction the source makes. He did not cry out, "I am finished," which would mean failure, defeat. He cried, "It is finished." In the world of our story, this is the king declaring that the debt is paid, justice is served, the payment is complete, the work is done. And so this whole explainer leaves us with this one last powerful question to really think about. If the king paid the price in full, if the work is truly finished, what are the implications for the daughter, for the one who is set free? What does that freedom really truly mean?